Kill task, random task, order assigned, order due. What are those things, and why did like 3 million people watch a video about a procrastinating robot on Mars? I'm Charlie. I'm a bioethicist that was recently diagnosed with ADHD. Let's talk about the prevention of thrashing. If you're not caught up, the procrastinating robot on Mars was the Pathfinder robot that was sent to Mars in 1997. It can't be remote controlled directly because it's so far away. There's a light delay, and you just like can't directly control it. So you have to send it generalized commands. While it was sitting on Mars, it was basically twiddling its thumbs. It kept switching back and forth between tasks, and it had a scheduling algorithm that was misfiring in a way that was very relatable to a lot of people. Pulling from this book, Algorithms to Live By Brian Christian and Tom Griffiths, computers have their storage, and then they have what they're actively working on in their RAM and what's in the cache in the CPU. The prioritization comes from the scheduling algorithms that are deciding what to hold in storage that's low priority and what to be holding in cache and in the RAM that's high priority. The scheduling algorithm on the Pathfinder got messed up because it kept changing its highest priority task. It would load information into the working memory, and then it would, once it had done that, decide that that actually wasn't the most important thing, and so it would dump all that back into the RAM, and it would grab a bunch of other stuff, and it would just keep spinning its wheels. It was spinning its little digital thumbs, twiddling away on Mars. And I posted a video about this last year, and like 3 million people watched it, and they said, oh my god, they gave the robot ADHD. To be clear, I posted the video not thinking about ADHD at all. I thought that everyone had this anxiety loop in their head all the time. Is this the thing I'm supposed to be working on? Let me change to this. Is this the thing? I thought that everyone was like that. Turns out that is actually called executive dysfunction. I'm not an expert on any of this. I'm not a psychology expert. I got diagnosed with ADHD, and so I read all 5 of these books. It's actually a 6th book that I don't have a physical copy of. And the reason I'm making this follow-up video is because literally hundreds of people were asking me to explain kill task, random task, order assigned, order due, and how does it help. Let's just do that. Enough foreplay. I kind of feel gross about saying foreplay. Enough preamble. The last bit of vocabulary to talk about is the word thrashing. Thrashing refers to the computational process of using 100% of your CPU power to decide what task to do and move stuff around without making progress on it, and getting stuck in a loop, a computational loop that is called thrashing. I do this all the time, and so I made a little printout for myself. Let me show you. Okay, so at this document I have 3 different boxes. I basically never used this box. That was an error. And then all of these are my tools to get out of the state of thrashing. Let me walk you through it. Your scheduling algorithm is overwhelmed. You don't have the ability to pick a task. So with the head clearer here, what you do is you literally write down every single thing that is in your head. And you try to distinguish everything that is in your head, the head clear, with what you're about to do now. And the rule is that you can't write anything into the now box until you have scribbled every last thing that is in your brain in this particular thrashing session. Obviously, if you practice this, there'll be a couple of points where you just like realize that you're working into tomorrow's to-do list, which is not helpful, so you want to stop yourself there. But then, once you have all the things written down there, that's when you start looking at these boxes. Random task, kill task, order assigned, order due. What does that mean? Okay, for the sake of making this less abstract, I was doing this literally this morning. I read this book by Cassidy Hutchinson. I made a video about it, an initial teaser video, and I promised that I would make a follow-up video once I had read it. I did read it. I read it and spent hours on it, and I have lots of thoughts about it, but I just keep forgetting to do it. So that's one of the things on the list. But also this video that I'm doing right now, because hundreds of thousands of people watched it in the last couple of days, and so the short version, and so I wanted to do that. I got a client task and another client task and another brand deal that is coming soon to the channel. In addition, tonight's plans are contingent on this COVID test that at the time I hadn't done yet. So I started doing the COVID test, but then I started writing this video in my head, but then actually I started writing this video in my head, but I realized that this was more important because the client task is more important in terms of finances, because I'm not at my Patreon goal of a teacher's salary. And so I just did this over and over and over. This is a real example that actually happened this morning. And it's why, if you look really close, this shirt is like dusty and dirty because I haven't taken the shower yet. But how do we get to the now box? I don't know what goes here. So I go up to all my strategies and I go with an old favorite, the fan favorite, kill task. So I just say, you know what? I've been delaying this Cassidy Hutchinson video for like a month at this point. I'm not doing it today. Let me just kill that task. And as soon as I do that, something happens. Once I kill the task, I have more computational resources available in my brain to realize that I might be able to do these before the tonight plans. But I can't do that until I do the COVID test. So I switch from kill task to order do. In order to have the tonight plans, I have to first do the COVID test to make sure that I can do it. And in the thrashing process, I have been continuing to decide, should I do that thing tonight or should I not do that thing tonight? And I haven't been able to decide because I haven't had the information from the COVID test. So I switch to order do. I put the COVID test, you can't see what I'm writing, whatever. I put the COVID test in this box right here. Why did I say whatever? I literally set up this whole fancy camera thing. Boom. I set up COVID test here. I do that. Now that that is done and I've got my results, I now can make the tonight plan. Boom, texted those people after I did the COVID test, and now I have the computational space to pick which task makes sense to do next. And for me, that's this video for a lot of reasons, one of which is I've been on the vertical form videos for a real long time. We just crossed over 250,000 followers, which is astonishing. But short form videos, if you're not aware, just appear for 2 weeks and then they're gone forever, and that's not a super sustainable business model, hence the transition to YouTube. I'm gesturing at cameras in the air and other shenanigans. I just screenshotted something with the bottom of my tripod. Anyway, does this make sense now? Kill task, random task, order assigned, order due. Is it making sense? You might be wondering what all the other boxes are on the top of the page, and I'll get to those in a second. But one sort of overarching caveat for this is that these are tools to help me. I've developed these over time reading about them, but they are not themselves a cure for executive dysfunction. Learning a lot of tools is part of the treatment process as I've understood it from reading these 6 books on ADHD. But for a lot of people, that is half of the treatment. You can't skip it, but it can't be the only thing that you rely on. So just putting that out there as a sort of caveat as a non-expert on the internet. Please be suspicious of any opinions about healthcare that you see on the internet. Public service announcement over. What are these other boxes at the top and how do I use them? Okay, so these are other sort of helper functions that I've collected over the years. This HF right here is literally just helper function. I stole that from computer science. As I'm realizing as I'm making this video, it's actually the same thing as this. HF, helper function, is more or less the same thing as NTS, which is name the steps. Where did I get name the steps from? I used to be a high school teacher for 4 years, and one of the things that children do when they're misbehaving is that they actually just weren't given clear enough directions. If you want to, this is from Doug Lemoff's book, Teach Like a Champion. We'll talk more about that later if you ask. Okay, often people moralize that children are bad when they're not doing the thing that they're supposed to. But what you learn as a teacher is that a lot of the times you just didn't give a clear enough direction. And one of the most important things that you can learn as a teacher is to name the steps, literally just break it down for the kids. So I do this for myself. If I'm getting lost, if I'm getting overwhelmed, client task, that actually could be, honestly, 6 hours of work if I'm not careful. But if I name the steps, which will overwhelm me and then I won't be able to do it, if I name the steps, I can realize that there is a 30-minute task at the beginning that involves a couple of quick high leverage things that I could do, followed by that 5.5 hours, which I could then target if I did the 30 minutes first. So name the steps is one way that I stop myself from being a procrastinating robot on Mars with executive dysfunctions. What are some of the others? Most of these tips and tricks are based on having a small finite amount of executive energy to work with. But one of the boxes is about expanding that circle and making it just a little bigger. M, PMR, B, and RAIN. What are those things? Those are things from therapy. Just take a second to be mindful. Mindfulness, use a little mindfulness. Progressive muscle relaxation, you tighten your muscles in your hands. and you release. You tighten your muscles in your wrist, and you release. Arms, release. You go through the whole body, and it can free up a little bit more, make a little bit more space in your brain. Breathe for breathing, RAIN. It's an acronym that I completely forgot. I wrote it in here, and I had to work really hard to remember. Recognize, accept, investigate, and non-judgment. It's a way to examine your thoughts. I'm not expert and can't conclusively say any of this, but there is, at least from what I can tell, a little bit of evidence that mindfulness is good for you. There, I can say that claim. That's good enough. What is FTD? What is JS? I don't actually know. I wrote them down a while ago and I forgot. But perfectionism is bad. So hey. I can't remember most of them. One of them says do not disturb mode, like turn do not disturb on your phone, put the phone in a different room. All these things that you know that you've heard of before. Blitz is like hyper focus on purpose. And the only one that isn't in these boxes that I think is worth mentioning before I round out this video is pajama videos. Maybe PJ? No, it's not on there. It's marring the canvas. This is a technique that comes from creative people. Perfectionism often paralyzes your scheduling algorithm too, because you're not sure which component of the project to do, because you recognize that you can't do any of the components perfectly, but you think that you might be able to do one of them close enough to perfectly that you could just be able to do that one if you think. So one of the things that I've learned from creativity and writing and teaching, even writing lessons for students, is just like mess up on purpose. Include a mistake somewhere. Earlier in the video, you might have noticed, you can like rewind to see this. But like when I put this up to the camera, you can see that the walls get a little bit yellow. Why is that happening? And when I put it back down, it changes. That's because this camera is on auto white balance mode right now, which I do not normally like to do. It's because I had it on auto white balance mode for client 2 and I never fixed it. But if I take that mistake out early in the video, then I get into this perfectionist mindset and I'm not able to like make any significant progress on the video. So sometimes I include a little mistake like that early on in the video just to be like, nobody's gonna notice. Probably, I would guess 95% of you didn't notice that the white balance changed when I put the book in front of. Maybe you did, and then you forgot about it immediately. A lot of these things that you think are important are not that important. So mar the canvas, like rip a page a little. It's also part of why I like highlighting books, because it's like, this is just a thing. I don't have to highlight the perfect things. I just need to process the information as best I can. Why is that called a pajama video? Because I haven't made a cut in a long time. So like, ooh, camera angle change, visual interest. It's called a pajama video because I literally got 250,000 followers on TikTok and Instagram by sometimes making videos in my pajamas. Today, my hair is not the way that I would like. And it was bothering me in the beginning of this video, and now I've completely forgotten about it. Cool, I've talked enough. This is way more strategies than I thought it was going to be, but I forgot that I had these 4 boxes. Maybe later I'll remember what BDEA and FTD stand for. But until that day, I'll just have this. I think I'll put this PDF, I'll give it to my Patreon supporters. I have a little thing over there, which is the RIP Patreon goal. It's just a teacher's salary. I'll put this PDF in my Patreon page. And if you want to buy this book through my Changing the White Balance for a second. Ooh, very orange. Wow, look at it. It's orange. Okay. It'll be in the reading list, which is in my bio. That's an affiliate reading list, which is another way that you can help support my channel. Okay. I have to do client stuff, and then I'll try to make the Cassidy Hutchinson video about how to get people out of algorithmic radicalization rabbit holes and get people out of cults, and I don't know if it's going to work. Happy reading. Bye.